Moving right along, item 3.3 is the continuation of our beloved A-22-5, the regulation text amendment for inclusionary zoning. I do have, I can bring it up on a screen, but we did do a quick revision of the text here to, which some people asked us to at least look at, to revise it to exclude. By the way, I think there were two ways to look at this. One was to draft it to include only certain zones, essentially the sewer district. When I looked at that, it was a little bit difficult because the zones don't exactly overlay with the sewer district perfectly. So my proposed draft, which I have, if we want to get into it, would be to exclude our AAA and our AA, which doesn't perfectly do the same thing, but I think it accomplishes a similar goal there. But before we get into discussion on that, I think we should share, which Alice already did, that the Board of Selectmen have discussed this in their most recent meeting. Even though our public hearing is closed, and for the record, for those that are following this, the Board of Selectmen were invited to formally provide input on this on November 29th, which was a month before our public hearing opened on December 27th. We then had the public hearing open for 2 months. And only after the public hearing is closed, because of some pressure, I respect it, but only because of the more recent public pressure, the Board of Selectmen have formally asked us via letter to reopen the public hearing, which isn't really technically that easy, but we could certainly open a new public hearing. That is allowed. And certainly as we're redrafting, it might be appropriate to open a new public hearing anyway. The important thing to know about opening a new public hearing is that we'll have to renotice it.
Yeah, last time we did that, it wasn't a favorite of the town attorney. It was suggested to withdraw and then start fresh.
Yep.
So I will have to check to make sure that.
Withdraw the application that initiated our review of inclusionary zoning.
Yes.
So does that mean we have to disregard all of the previous comments that we?
Well, they're all withdrawn basically. It doesn't mean you have to ignore it.
But does that mean they have to resubmit them again?
Well, hold on, if you read this letter, the Board of Selectmen is supposed to make a comment. Okay, so when are they expecting to make their comment? Because we gave them plenty of notice.
They'll do it during the public hearing if we give them another public hearing, and that's what they're asking us to
I would
do.
ask the Board of Selectmen to go on record on what their recommendations are. Put in writing.
I think it's also fair to say, and Mr. Katz sat in a meeting, I've reviewed it, I looked at it via video, I was out, but I think it's safe to say, it was very clear in the public comment that nothing they're going to say is different than anything we've already heard.
They just want to have a legal vehicle through which they can make comment, which they cannot now do.
Do you think that'll be by their attendance or simply by submitting a letter?
Yeah.
Well, when we sent the referral,
Yeah.
which we did in writing, it's in the record, you can see it. We invited them to either submit something in writing, so, a letter, opinion letter, whatever you want to call it, their feedback, or to appear. They elected not to appear, and had plenty of time. I mean, here's the letter right here. So, they were given a full text. They were given plenty of time, and were invited to either write their opinion or to come and present their opinion. They didn't, and now that the public hearing is closed, they would like to.
Under current circumstances, are they allowed to submit a letter still, or they
No,
cannot?
that's the tricky
cannot.
thing.
That's a
Legally,
public
once the public hearing is closed,
hearing. No letter, no.
which, we closed at the end of February, can't remember the exact date, but after 2 months and lots of hearings, we've closed the public hearing, so we're actually not allowed to receive any new testimony or opinion or feedback. By the way, we have looked into the possibility technically that since Rudy is actually an ex officio member of our commission, he's welcome to join any meeting. So he could potentially come and participate in our discussion, just like we're having here. He's a member. He's allowed.
He's not a voting member.
He's not a voting member, but he's an ex officio member who's allowed to participate in our discussion. So we've we've floated the idea with also town attorneys and commission attorney of could Rudy appear and basically participate in our debate. The answer is he could do that. I think the answer, Alice, unless you heard something different, is he could do that as one of us here, but he can't kind of submit testimony on behalf of the Board of Selectmen in its entirety. So it's a kind of legal nuance. But again, I go back to what we do know is, or what I think we don't know for certain, but what seems pretty clear is that their feedback would be consistent with the testimony that we've already heard, which is primarily to consider limiting the zones geographically, and that's the number one piece of feedback that we've heard. I think the second piece, which is in his letter, so I'm not saying anything inappropriate, is that they would like to look at this inclusionary zoning in the light of current legislation, that's happening in the state.
Extant and pending.
Yeah, exactly. Which is tough because the legislative session goes till June. We don't really know what's
Do we have a
going to be
clock?
passed.
Do we have a clock for
No,
us?
because this is a commission-initiated item.
Yeah.
We actually could just table this,
Yeah.
and frankly, I suggest for tonight, because we have other things on our agenda,
Yeah.
maybe we just table this.
Mhm.
We could keep tabling it. The problem is, which we talked about in November when we calendared this, is that we do have applications flowing in. We have 2 new ones tonight of interest.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And applications that are coming in are not subject to any
Yeah.
requirement at the moment.
Well, if we put it into place, would these applications be subject to it, or
Yeah.
would they be too late?
Once they're in, and they're in now.
Yeah, they're in.
It's too late.
So
Okay.
it doesn't really
So
matter.
it really
We
doesn't
could get
matter.
another application in next week
Yeah.
for 10 units or 20 units, and, somewhere, and we're gonna be in the same zone that we've been in for years of having basically nothing to push, nothing but the force of Mr. Katz,
Mhm.
which is pretty serious, actually.
45 years, but
So I'm happy to table this for 2 weeks because we have other things, but if anybody has opinions about how we should proceed, this is the time to talk about it.
I think we gave them.
David.
Oh, wait, go ahead. I wasn't going to say much. I was just going to say I think we gave them enough time to comment, and I don't think we're going to hear anything new. So
we did have one of the selectmen attend one of our public hearings.
Yeah, but
He didn't.
he attended as an
He did,
individual,
okay.
and he kind of
Okay.
intentionally,
Yeah.
I think, was not trying to take a public, he was more there to listen. So,
I'm kind
for
of-
the record, I agree with Joe. I don't want to push, I try to be careful as a chair to not push the commission, but I feel like we've given them a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity, and I don't feel like anything that they're going to mention is new. So I'm not inclined to start the whole process over again personally. But if you disagree,
I agree with Rob and Joe. And honestly, they're asking us, if we will do this for them. But, so there's the possibility that we offend them deeply, but there's also the possibility that we just send the message, like, we're serious when we ask you, like, we want your input and to pay attention. So
If
I'm
we-
all for it.
If we listened to the public and did what we were supposed to do, and you gave them ample notice, you gave them more than ample notice, if they kick the can down the road, I don't think we give them any more time. I agree with everybody on the board so far.
any other discussion?
I watched the meeting and I don't know, like you might want to just watch the playback
Board
to
of
see what's
Selectmen?
going, yeah, I watched it just so you can sort of see how the whole thing evolved and came around. It wasn't like, I don't think it was like, it's not to like offend us or anything, but just if you watch the meeting, you'll sort of see how it all kind of came together. But, it is an overarching problem that maybe we need to kind of mention to them that a lot of times when we ask for comment from all different areas, we get no comment, and that's supposed to be the comment, and I don't really agree with that, I know all areas of the town, everybody's busy, but we should all comment. But I think if they want to sit down and talk with us, I don't have a problem with it, just not taking forever to get to that point.
Yeah. Okay, so if there's no objection, we'll leave the discussion there. We do have a new draft, but I think we probably need more time to actually debate that, merits of that, based on the testimony we've heard. So why don't we table this to the next meeting, and we've got a bunch of other things to get onto. Any objection? Okay. Next item is,
This is Kurt Carr, on the record.
Thank you for watching.